Guess what, Lions? For as little as $5 a month, you can get access to exclusive bonus audio content and help this program grow by joining the Lions of Liberty Pride. To learn more, head over to lionsofliberty.com/support.
Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers, it is time for another episode of Felony Friday right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. Felony Friday is, of course, the show where each and every single Friday I focus on exposing injustice in this nation's broken criminal justice system. Felony Friday is one of 3 shows that we have here on the Lions of Liberty podcast feed. That's right, we have a bit of a variety show that we offer on this feed. Every Monday, we have our show hosted by Mark Claire, which is our flagship program, our longest running program. And on that Monday show, Mark is going to interview leading minds in the liberty movement. He'll host some roundtable discussions. Even within the show itself, it's a bit of a variety show. And every Wednesday, we have Electric Liberty Land, hosted by Brian McWilliams. It's a wildly entertaining show, and it is a weekly shot of culture, comedy, and liberty. On Felony Friday, we have a couple different formats that we'll use, and today's format has been a very, very popular format. I will be interviewing a former felon, a guy that has been through the criminal justice system, and he is now out. He's going to talk about his experience. The guy I'm interviewing is Jamel Nettles, and his story, it's going to have you on the edge of your seat. It is just an incredible, incredible story. This episode is going to be split into 2 parts because Jamel did such a phenomenal job taking us through each aspect of his story in great detail. He's a great storyteller. The second part will air next Friday. Part 1 today. They'll be about 35-40 minutes each. So in order to make sure you get next week's episode next Friday, as well as Monday's show with Mark, Wednesday's show with Brian, just subscribe wherever you get your podcast to make sure that you get all of these episodes. And also, I will be releasing this episode with Jamel Nettles in its totality to our Lions of Liberty Pride as exclusive content. So our Pride members, if you go to your Podbean account there, your Podbean app, you can listen to this entire interview with Jamel Nettles in its totality right now. And if you want to join the Pride, you can go to lionsofliberty.com/support and join for as little as $5 per month. This is the 87th episode of Felony Friday. You'll be able to find the show notes with links and notes to stuff that I'm going to be talking about with Jamel Nettles today at lionsofliberty.com/FF87. Let's get this interview rolling. My guest today on Felony Friday is Jamel Nettles. The events that led to Jamel's arrest and his conviction are shocking and tragic. And we'll talk about that story. It was a break-in at his house where he was shot that actually led to him being arrested on a non-violent drug crime. Now, Mr. Nettles is of Mobile, Alabama, and he was sentenced to 365 months in prison and 4 years supervised release. This was back in 2006, and that was for possession with intent to distribute crack cocaine, possession with intent to distribute cocaine, and simple possession of marijuana. Jamel served 11 years in prison, and he received clemency from President Obama on December 19th, 2017. He was released into a halfway house in January this year, and then finally released from the halfway house on April 18th. So Jamel has quite a story to share, and we're going to get into the details on it. So Jamel, welcome to Felony Friday.
All right, man. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on the show, and I'm thankful to Malik King, who's been a past guest on this show, who introduced us and told me about your story. So I'm happy to give you the opportunity to share that story with the Felony Friday audience here on Felony Friday. We're all about exposing injustice in the criminal justice system. And I mean, I think, just from reading your story, I mean, this is a vast injustice. So I'm looking forward to giving you the opportunity to talk about it here today. But before we get too much into your story and talking about what exactly happened, if you could just maybe give my listeners a little background info on yourself and let us know where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
My name is Jamel Nettles. I'm 30 years old now. I'm from an impoverished section of Mobile, Alabama called Maysville. If anyone's familiar with the downtown Mobile area, it's not far from downtown at all. It's pretty much, to kind of paint you a picture of it, it's fairly slummy. We have several different housing projects, which they have closed down, a couple of them now. But the housing that surround the housing projects on basically all four sides of the area that I'm from are, a pretty slummy area. It's a drug-infested area, as like most impoverished areas. And I am the product of two parents who have struggled with substance abuse for a large part of their lives. My mother is now sober and has been for a while, but my father still struggles with substance abuse to this day. And, because of their substance abuse, I pretty much was raised by my environment to a large extent, which my grandmother and another one of my aunts were like my other mothers, but pretty much my environment raised me because my parents were so much into their own thing. And as a result of that, I found my role models and definitions of masculinity and my identity as a black male within my environment, within the men in my environment, and when you come from an impoverished area, the people are pretty tough, because they go through a lot of hard times. So, and they adjust to the environment as best they can. And as a child, you're very impressionable. You're a young sponge, searching for your identity, searching for your way, and you pretty much grow into whatever you're around. And it's many types of people that you're around, but the majority of the people fit a certain mold, and that's basic. People just basically trying to survive from day to day. But the problem is, survival is by any means necessary. So, I describe it this way: like, some people come from a music culture where they're surrounded by musical talent and music, and they know the history of music. And some people come from a sports culture where they know sports, and their dads and uncles all played sports, and they played sports since they were little kids. Some people come from a religious culture, whether it be Islam or Christianity or what have you. Well, I come from a drug culture. Like, I don't remember a time in my life when I haven't known about or seen drugs or drug addicts or the results of drugs, such as, police raids, ambulance late night, or the streets being sectioned off for whatever reason. Everything that comes with poverty, which is, crime. This is the culture that I come from. So I was raised. Now, I won't say that I was intentionally reared to be a criminal, but it was like by default, this is the way we live. This is the way we survive. And as I wrote about in my story that the brother Malik King posted, I remember, as far back, my first introduction I remember directly with drugs was when I was 6 years old, because it was like you come outside and this is what you see, I remember my school teachers and stuff, being either drug addicts or their son is a runner down the street for such and such. And this is my everyday life. My first introduction, I was 6 years old. I started off handing out packages for people. Never knew what the packages were. Didn't really care what they were either, because, I got the people would give me a good laugh and a pat on the back. They were nice to me. And anyone who comes from an impoverished ghetto anywhere in America knows that the people are pretty mean. They're pretty rough, because they come from such rough environment. The way you live is rough. So the people are pretty rough, but people were nice to me, and And it's basically, hey, hand this to such and such, or go down the street and pass this to such and such, and get what he give you and bring it back to me, or count this money for me right quick, or little man, go and hide this under the house for me right quick, or or somebody might scream to me from the back of the police car, go and tell such and such. I said, get that stuff out of the closet, stuff like that. Just I was reliable. I was always right there. I was smart enough to catch on to, what was going on, not within the limits of a 6-year-old, of course, but I was a little, I wasn't into playing as much as I was into doing whatever I was told around, the neighborhood. So it's like right here, literally, you walk out the door, here we are. This is what's going on. It's teeming. It's like teeming with people. Now, mind you, this is the 90s we're talking about. So now, the crack era, most people talk about, the mid 80s and stuff, but that's more so in bigger cities, Miami, Los Angeles, New York. Down here in the deeper South, which I can't speak for too much ahead of that era because I was born in '87. But in the 90s, it's like when there was a real crack era down here, and this was when like everybody was doing it. The streets were just teeming with people. It's not like that anymore. But anyways, that was my introduction. Pass this, run this, this and that, and I was reliable. People would give me a little money, and I like that, or they'll let me ride with them in their nice cars and the loud music. And I remember, when car phones were out and stuff, and guys were wearing the silk, colorful T-shirts and the thick herringbone chains and stuff, and the big beepers, and it was cool, because when I look around, man, it was very limited. Either you worked a job and complained all day about the job that you hated every day. Most of the guys, they work and they go sit up under the tree and drink beer and play dominoes and sit around and shoot the shit all day, which was kind of bumming to me. And then they were always complaining. I always remember my mother always complaining about her life, and just everybody was always complaining. This group of people, the working class group of people, because there are no lawyers that live around here. There are no doctors that live around here. There are no policemen that live around here. There are no what people would consider to be staples of the community or staples of society. The pillars, the people who you look up to, and people always talk about, well, why a mentor and all this and that. Well, the street people were my mentors. These are my mentors. These are who I have access to. I'm a kid. I don't have a car, so within walking distance, this is who I know. And there were no people like that lived right around me. So I didn't know anything about that. My aspirations weren't to be an attorney, because I had never met one unless I was going to court with somebody else. My mom or somebody was going to court. Or, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. We're a product of our surroundings, and from you, what you're telling me now, growing up, the most successful people and the people that actually seemed to enjoy what they did and got a little bit more freedom from what they did, they didn't have to maybe work a 9 to 5. Those are people selling drugs, right? So if you wanted to aspire to that, that was sort of the path that you were led down. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir. Because these seem like the only people that were happy, the only people that were successful, that were having things. Either you worked a BS job and complained all the time about the BS job that you hate, and you still struggled and didn't have much, or you were a drug user, trying to medicate and, alter your reality from the life that you hated because of poverty, or you were a drug dealer. This was like the three routes. You work and you're unhappy and don't have nothing. You're a drug user and definitely don't want to be a drug user because you can clearly see that they're not winning, or you were a drug dealer. This is and like the factories in our area and stuff were shutting down. We got Mobile is a real blue collar area. It's a lot of shipyards, a lot of this and that, and so it's just a lot was going on. But the market that was readily there was the drug market. So like I say, my introduction is just being a runner at around 6, and then I remember as I got older, I'm looking out for people, and when I got around 12, man, people would always. I had a reputation by then. for doing this and that. And people would always ask me, hey, where's such and such? Asking me where's the weed man or the coke man or the man with the best crack or whatever. People always asking me, and I'm always pointing them in this and that direction and passing this and that. I decided, man, the best thing for me to do was go ahead and handle my own business. Just to briefly, not to go into another story, but like I remember what actually broke me down was because we were always pretty poor, and we would have to go and live back and forth with other people sometimes, and we always lived in this little apartment. We never had a house, so sometimes our utilities may get cut off or whatever. But at this time, my mom was working, and all of our utilities were on. I'm about 12 years old. I had got into girls by then, a lot more, the average 12-year-old kind of stuff. And we had just moved out of my aunt's house back into our apartment. But at my aunt's house, it was a one bathroom, and it was several kids that lived in there and adults. There's a lot of us living in a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, and all of the kids were around the same age. So all of us in the bathroom all the time, and it just was cramped. So we moved back to our apartment, and all of our utilities were on. I went to school, and there was this girl I liked, and I had gave her my phone number. So by the time I got home, I didn't know our phone was cut off because it was on when I left. So I'm like, oh, man, you know how cruel kids are, with the teasing. So I remember, man, coming back into my classroom the next day, knowing I'm finna hear it. They had already been talking and laughing and joking and stuff. So they had got quiet. Then I just hear somebody say, the number you called has been disconnected, and everybody erupted in laughter. You know what I'm saying? They had already been, laughing about it, that my phone was cut off. And I liked this girl, and it was embarrassing, and it pissed me off, man. I remember that day, I made up in my mind, man, I wasn't gonna go through this anymore, and especially when I don't need to, and I had no idea that I was a natural entrepreneur. I had the entrepreneurial spirit. I learned that later when I got older, and man, I went and I took $10, went to the project down the street from where we lived, and I bought what you call 3 for the 10, which is basically 3 nickel bags of marijuana for $10. That's worth $15. I sold it for $15, and I kept doing that and doing that. And before you know it, man, I had enough to buy me an ounce of marijuana, 2 ounces of marijuana, and there we go, man. It just took off from there. At 12 years old, stopped coming home at night. I would come home at 12 a.m., 1 a.m., especially once I got into harder drugs, cocaine and crack cocaine and stuff like that, selling that. And to this day, me and my mother's never discussed, there was never, like, when I came in, there was never a, where you been, what you doing, or this or that. It's you better get your ass up and go to school in the morning, that kind of stuff, but I would, we never discussed what I was doing or something, but I would have money to help out and stuff. But how it really came to a head was, as far as bringing the money into the household, my mother had gotten an income tax check, and she wanted to get a house. She wanted to move out of the apartments that we were in. Now, where we were living, it was an apartment, but it was really like a project. Only reason why it wasn't a project is because the government didn't necessarily own it, and it wasn't brick. But it's pretty much the projects, but it was an apartment complex. And she wanted to get out of there. We had been trying to get out of there a long time. Had an income tax. She had a deal on the house. We were on Section 8. We were on all kind of government assistance. But and the landlord had agreed to get her the house, and then she had given him X amount of money, whatever she had, and he came to our apartment and told her why she couldn't get the house and he needed extra money, and she just didn't have the extra money. It was like $1,500. She just didn't have it, And man, my mother. Now, just really quick to explain something about my mother. My mother is a functionally illiterate. Like, she can read a stop sign, but my mother struggles to read a letter that I write her. She could write me, and it's not talking bad about my mother. I'm just telling you the truth. she could write me a letter and you would think a third grader wrote it based off her penmanship and grammar usage and, spelling. It's punctuation, So she doesn't have, education, the basic, So what she was doing, she did a lot of domestic work, babysitting people's kids and cleaning up people's houses and cleaning motel rooms and stuff. And where I'm from, man, just to be all the way real with you, racism is very alive and well and is very strong. Mobile is a very segregated city. Now, of course, you see people mingle, don't get me wrong, but the economics and the politics are in such a headlock by whites only or people who want to do the bidding of whites only that everything is very concentrated. Like, I don't remember ever going to school with a white person. I don't remember ever a white person ever living in my neighborhood, ever. The only time we saw white people were to buy drugs, or they were like city workers fixing the street or something, or the police. Them the white people we saw, the police. So my mother always, that's another thing that turned my interpretation of working a job bad. My mother always worked these jobs for the white people, and they would always, I never liked the way that they treated her. But anyway, so this man wants the house, this older white guy. And man, my mother literally got down on her knees, crying, begging in front of this white man. And man, I was furious. I could literally kill him at this time. I was pissed. I was 14 years old. Now, so I went into the back room. I snatched my mother off the floor and told her to wipe her face and stuff, and she's trying to fight against what I'm telling her. And I went in the back room and I gave the man $1,500, and then I can't remember, I gave him another $500 for something that was going on. So I wound up giving him $2,000. And my mama seen all that money in my hand, and she immediately, her whole vibe changed. She got real bold, and she wiped her face and slapped the money in his hand and cursed him out and told her to give her goddamn house and stuff like that, And that made me so proud. It made me feel so good. And she hugged me and stuff. And because my mother was a very bad alcoholic, and she would drink and she would cry all the time, and she would say very, very horrible things to me, like give me vicious tongue lashings, blame me for her life, blame me for why she didn't have this and why she couldn't do this, and tell me I would never be shit like my dad, and you're just like your dad, and you ain't gonna never be shit, and get your stupid ass out of here. Like, I might come in happy about something, and she might just, like, this is not real, just smack the hell out of me, and just say very mean things to me, which is used to hurt the shit out of me, And I didn't understand it. But when I started making the money and our life began to change, we get our house. I fully furnished the house. We now, for the first time, we don't have to walk to the damn laundromat and worry about nobody stealing our stuff and sweating the laundromat or beg somebody to let us clean our clothes over their house. We got a washer and a dryer. We have a den. We have a big screen television. I went and got us a new car, which is this back then, Kia. The Kia was real cheap back then. So it wasn't like a Lexus or nothing. I wasn't doing it like that, but we had a Kia, little Kia, our standard of living had increased significantly. We weren't rich. I didn't have, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but when you're really poor, man, another $5,000 to $7,000 changed your damn life like you wouldn't believe, So
yeah, you had a little bit higher comfort level, a little bit more room to maneuver. Yeah, that can really change things.
Right. So the tongue lashing stopped from her. Now it wasn't blaming me for things and accusing me of things. It was praise. It was how much you love me, and the hugs, and the I'm proud of you, and you really being the man around here and stuff like that, But never, what are you doing? Where are you going? You need to make sure you do this and that. And it's not what, never that. That was never, so that was more confirmation for me that this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what a man does, you know. And I remember around the same time, see, my dad had a thing where he stole from us real bad. Like back in the day, food stamps used to be like paper, looked like Monopoly money. It was like real colorful. He would steal our food stamps or steal her little check money. My dad is on crack. And when it turned to the card, this man was literally breaking our house because you couldn't steal the paper food stamps anymore. You had to have a card with a pin number and literally steal meat out the freezer, steal cereal from off the top of the refrigerator. You know, I remember this guy stole our whole Christmas one time and then got mad and jumped on me because I asked him about it. You know, this was when I was maybe 10. This is before I really got in the street. But so when I remember now that I'm more prideful and I'm taking this whole man of the house thing real serious. I remember my dad, this is shortly after we moved in our house, he tried to come there and cut up his normal way, and I jumped on him for the first time, you know. And after that, I'm really the protector and the provider of my home. There was nothing no one could tell me. Nothing no one could tell me that what I was doing in my life was wrong. There's no way that what I'm doing is wrong when I'm producing such positive results. Now I have a little sister, too, at the time, you know, and she has whatever she needs. She's happy all the time. My mom's happy. You know, there is peace in my home. There's chaos in the streets, but there's chaos in the streets before I got there. It's going to always be chaos in the streets. But in my home, there was peace. There was no more chaos because we now had money. So there was nothing no one could tell me that what I was doing was wrong. I was 100% right in my eyes. And what I was doing was actually noble because now it had gotten to the point where I'm not just taking care of my family and my home. I'm taking care of my extended family, my aunts and cousins and stuff like that now. And I'm, you know, the point that I'm trying to make, I'm not justifying what I was doing. I'm trying to paint the mentality that I was in, you know. So make a long story short, around 16, I had my first son. And, you know, from 16 to the time I left the street, I was, you know, my mother had stopped working. She just stopped working because she didn't need to work anymore. I had never told her to do that, but she just did, and I didn't have a problem with it because she had worked hard all her life. But I was taken care of now from 16 to the time of the shooting at my home, which is when I was 18. I was taking care of me, my son's mother, because she comes from a bad family background as well. My mother, my little sister, and my younger cousin, who was 3 years younger than me, who also comes from, all of us come from poverty. All of us come from pretty fucked up situations. So I'm taking care of all 6 of us, you know, fully. Now, but I still go to school. I still make decent grades in school. I was always pretty smart in school, you know, and I had a plan that I wanted to get my house in order, and I wanted to save a certain amount of money, and I wanted to go off to college, right? This was actually my plan because I've always been fairly book smart. But every time that I would get to the amount of money that I would say this is how much I need, the money was coming so fast. It was just so fast. It was never easy. People say that the drug life is easy. It's not easy. It's very stressful. It's very chaotic and it's very sad, but it's very fast. It's the speed. Yeah, I try to explain this to people that don't understand. Drug dealing is as much of an addiction as drug using because you get a rush. You know, I've read where Wall Street guys say that the rush for making sudden amounts of money quickly is like the rush of cocaine. Well, I've never done cocaine, but I've had the rush of the money. It's you become addicted to the rush that the money gives you. You become addicted to you're beating the system. You're beating the man. You know, this is how you feel, though you're really not.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a little bit different rush because, like you said, you're beating more. It's more than just making the money. You're going up
Right.
against the government, making against this prohibition.
Right.
But I mean, it's very similar to. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I have a couple entrepreneurial ventures. I mean, anytime you can make money and you yourself have been the one 100% responsible for making that money, I mean, there's no better feeling than that, because nobody has given you permission to do that. Nobody has created that situation for you. You did it all yourself. And I'm sure it's the same feeling you got.
Exactly. And many people in the street, this is what they get. And then not only that, you go from being a nothing in your environment to being praised. So you fall in love with the adulation of it all, the excitement. You know, you come through, man, you 16 years old or 14 years old, don't even have a driver license, and you done put, $20,000 into a car. It's painted, shiny, and glossing when it hit the sun, and the big rims are shining, and the music is turned up. All the younger and older girls love you. Older people do whatever the hell you tell them to do because they're addicts. Wash my car, go run this errand for me, go and do this. You go in and out of town whenever you want to, however you want to. You're meeting all kind of people. You're a goddamn celebrity. I mean, you're a local celebrity. But you were just a local loser. It's an addiction, man. And people wonder why do you keep doing this when you see this and that happening to other people, or that you've been through this and you've been through that. It's literally an addiction, man. And you walking somewhere, people know your name, they're walking up to you and they high-fiving you and hugging you, versus it used to be you walking somewhere, people frowning at you. Man, what the fuck you want? Don't come around here with that. You know what I'm saying? It's a completely different thing. You become a celebrity, and so it's hard to tell a young person or even an older person, no matter what they've been through, hey man, don't this and that. First of all, it's an addiction. Second of all, you have to have an alternate. You take a man, he's 35 years old with 3 or 4 kids, and you go tell him work for $10 an hour, and the cost of living is constantly going up, and he can see no light at the end of the tunnel. But at the same time, business, the foundation is supply and demand. He knows the supply and demand. The demand is right around the corner, and it's difficult to explain to somebody, why you don't this and that, when a lot of the jobs may be miles away and he doesn't have a car because he just got out of prison, or he doesn't have a car because he tried to stop doing this and that for a while and he lost all his money, It's difficult, man. You get trapped in a real cycle of poverty and hell. But like I say, I was taking care of all these people, and I'm also taking care of aunts and helping cousins, because I have a large family and whom I love. I've always been close-knit to my family. All of these people are now depending on me. Their livelihood rests on my back. So all of this, and I had gotten up to, I was in high school, man. I remember being in high school, sitting in my high school class, and the night before, I had just counted out $300,000, and I'm a high school student. Now, depending on, who you are, that's not a lot of money. Depending on what position you are in life, it's a whole lot of money, especially for a teenager, Well,
I think no matter what, that's a whole lot of money. It's just, if some people already have, that much money, multiplied, 10 times, then it's not going to seem like as much.
Right.
But no matter what, that's $300,000 is a lot of money.
Right.
What ended up happening? Can you tell us a little bit about the break-in that occurred and how that ultimately led to you being arrested?
Yes, sir. That's what I was about to go into. So just trying to explain how I thought, I was doing the right thing, and but at this time, though I had this money, and on November 21st, 2005, which I was 18 years old at the time, a home invasion occurred at my home. Now, I had moved my family away from Maysville, where I live. My mother had moved. I had moved my mother away, and I had moved my family, my son and family, away to another neighborhood. And I didn't sell drugs out of my house, and I didn't, people didn't, like a lot of people didn't know where I lived, but I had put a lot of money into like a couple of flashy cars and stuff with TVs and music and paint rims and stuff. So, if you looked hard enough, it wouldn't be that hard to find me because of the cars stick out so much. But anyways, one night me and my 15-year-old cousin are sitting in there playing a video game. My girlfriend's in the kitchen cooking, and my little 2-year-old son is just running around. And we heard a loud noise at the door. Now, this is Christmas time. This is around Christmas time. It's December the 21st, and I just moved into a new house. So my family members are popping up all the time, wanting to see the new house and, come spend time with us. We have family coming in from out of town because it's the holiday season. So we hear a loud noise in the front room. Boom! Now, I had a really, really big mirror that I used to always be worried about falling. So the first thing came to my mind was my big mirror had failed. Let me run in here and make sure my baby didn't get hit or my baby doesn't get cut by any of the glass. So when I run in there, the mirror's on the wall, and my girlfriend looked at me. I'm like, what is that? I thought it's somebody at the door. Now, I got a couple uncles and little cousins. They like to play and knock all hard on the door like it's the police, playing stupid little games. So I go to the door. I say, who is it? And somebody say, it's your Uncle Junior. Now, I'm expecting, family because people are popping up, not necessarily this uncle. But so I get ready to open the door, and then I see men with masks on behind the door. So I immediately try to force the door shut, and they kick the door and shove their shoulders into the door. And 3 masked men run into my home.
Okay, guys, that is a wrap of part 1 with my interview with Jamel Nettles. And I'm sorry to leave you hanging like that. If you want to hear the rest of Jamel's story right now, you can do that by joining the Lions Pride. And you can do that by going to lionsofliberty.com/support. We have 3 levels where you can join the Pride at: 25, 10, and 5. You get access to our exclusive content at all of those levels. The $25 level, you're going to get some free t-shirts, a free koozie. You're going to get access to our Lions of Liberty store at cost. All the stuff sold there at cost. And you're also going to get a monthly conference call with us where you can chime in, give us ideas, shoot the shit, ask us questions. It's a great time. Really enjoying these conference calls, getting to know our $25 Pride level. I think we're calling that the Lions Guard level. And the $10 level, you don't get the call, but you pretty much get everything else. You get a free t-shirt, a free koozie. You get 20% off at the store. The $5 level, you don't get the free stuff. You still get the content, though. And all the levels get access to our secret Facebook group, where you're going to get to chime in, and sometimes we have some bonus segments with guests. I know we just had one with Julie Borowski when we had her on, and our Pride members had the opportunity to chime in with some questions they wanted to ask Julie. So, guys, the only other thing I want to talk about, very important, I want to talk about DonorC. If you haven't downloaded the DonorC app, I want you to stop what you're doing and do that right now. I also want you to check out Mark's interview. He just did an interview with Gret Glyer this week. It was published on Tuesday. I'll link to it on the show notes page. And Gret was talking about, Gret's the founder of DonorC, for those of you who don't know. He was talking about what they're doing to help the flood victims in Houston. It's just devastation in Houston, the amount of people that have been trapped. And there's a group of people who call themselves the Cajun Navy, who have gone in with their boats, their own personal boats, watercraft, and helped to rescue people who were trapped. And Gret came up with a project to help to fund, to help to buy gas for these people who were going in and executing these rescues, saving people. The project was initially $5,000. That was funded in a couple days, tacked on another $2,500. And I'm sure by the time this airs, that will be funded as well. So I'm not sure what the next project will be, but I'm sure that Brett will still be involved in the recovery in Houston and have some projects coming. So stay plugged in to DonorC. Stay plugged in to Walk the Walk, which is a Facebook group founded by Lions of Liberty Forum member, Pride member Clinton Rankin. Join that group on Facebook. This is a great way to have an impact, get updates on these projects. Gret with DonorC, they posted a lot of great videos showing these rescue missions in Houston. Just really, really incredible stuff, and thankful for the people that have sacrificed themselves and given up their own time to save other people. Just it's tremendous, and it's great to be able to help in a small way. So guys, I really want to encourage you to check that out and to donate. That is all I have for today. Be sure to tune in next week for part 2 of Jamel Nettles' story. You're not going to want to miss that, guys. And that's all I got. So thanks for listening. This is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.